This is episode 2 of The War We're Not Being Told the Full Story About, an economic analysis for Africa and the Caribbean. I'm Charmaine Hayden, and in the first episode, I gave you the executive summary of the 5 key facts that explain why this conflict matters far beyond the Middle East. And side note, I did eat that whole tub of gelato. Yes, I did. I gave up sugar for Lent, and it's Sunday, so treat day, and I'm indulging. But anyway, let me not digress any further. In the first episode, we talked about the effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the shutdown of Iraqi oil production, the limits of OPEC's spare capacity, and the market reaction that could push oil above $100 a barrel. But that was only the overview. In this episode, we're going to slow it down and examine the system behind those headlines, because the real power in this crisis doesn't come from missiles alone. It comes from the infrastructure that moves energy around the world. Oil shipping routes, maritime insurance markets, pipelines, and the financial systems that allow global trade to function. Once you understand how that system works, you understand why a disruption in one narrow waterway can send economic shockwaves across Africa and the Caribbean. So let's begin by looking at the most important choke point in the global energy system, the Strait of Hormuz. As I record this, the news had just come in that Ghana's UNIFIL battalion headquarters in southern Lebanon was struck by missiles during exchanges between the IDF and Hezbollah. 2 Ghanaian peacekeepers are critically injured. A third has been traumatized. The officer's mess has been burnt to the ground. Ghana's foreign ministry has filed a protest at the United Nations in New York. This war is no longer something happening over there. It's hitting us, our soldiers, our people. And that is why this analysis matters. Because when I tell you this war affects Africa, I'm not speaking theoretically. As of Saturday, March 7th, day 8, the death toll in Iran is difficult to pin down, because none of the figures coming out have been independently verified. What I can tell you is that the numbers are now above 1,300 killed and over 6,000 wounded. Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency reported 1,045 dead as of Thursday. The World Health Organization said almost 1,000 deaths in Iran, plus 50 in Lebanon, 10 in Israel, and 11 in the other Gulf countries. The WHO identified 13 Iranian health infrastructure sites hit by strikes. Al Jazeera's live tracker put the figure up higher at 1,145. I'm being transparent with you guys. These are the sources I have, and the numbers are still rising. In addition, at least 87 Iranian sailors were killed when the US submarine torpedoed and sank the Iranian frigate Iris Dena in the Indian Ocean off Sri Lanka on Wednesday. The first ship sunk by a submarine in combat since the Falklands War in 1982. The war zone now extends from Tehran to the Indian Ocean. In addition, at least 11 have been killed in Israel, 52 in Lebanon, 6 US service members, 3 in the UAE, and 1 each in Kuwait and Bahrain. 6 US service members are dead. 4 were killed when a drone struck a command center at the port of Kuwait on Sunday. They were assigned to the 103rd Sustainment Commandment, an Army Reserve unit based in Des Moines. I think that's how you say it anyway. 11 Israelis have been killed. There are confirmed casualties in the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain. 52 people have been killed in Lebanon by Israeli retaliatory strikes after Hezbollah attacked Israel. 3 US F-15E Strike Eagle fighter jets were shot down over Kuwait by Kuwaiti air defenses in a friendly fire incident during active combat. All 6 aircrew ejected safely and were recovered in stable condition. Iran has launched retaliatory strikes targeting at least 9 countries across the region: Bahrain, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and the British base at Akrotiri in Cyprus. Israel has also been struck by Iranian missiles. Dubai International Airport has been closed and struck. The US Embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, was hit by 2 drones on Tuesday, causing a limited fire and minor material damage to the compound. The US Embassy in Kuwait was also struck by a drone, and all personnel were accounted for. Both embassies have been closed. The US consulate in Dubai was hit by a suspected drone strike. Saudi Arabia's Ras Tanura refinery, the kingdom's largest, processing 555 550,000 barrels per day was shut down after a drone attack caused a fire. The Saudi Defense Ministry said 2 drones were intercepted and debris caused a limited fire. Bloomberg, Reuters and The National all confirmed the shutdown. Qatar Energy, the world's largest LNG producer, halted production and declared force majeure on long-term contracts after Iranian strikes hit Qatar. Qatar's foreign ministry spokesperson said Iran must pay a price for what he called a blatant attack on the Qatari people, adding that such an attack cannot go unanswered. On Friday, Qatar's energy minister told the Financial Times that exports from the Gulf could halt within weeks if the war continues, warning that GDP growth around the world will be impacted. Energy prices will go higher everywhere. There will be shortages and there will be a chain reaction of factories that cannot supply. And the Strait of Hormuz, the 21-mile waterway through which it's approximately 20% of the world's oil consumption passes every single day, is now a de facto no-go zone. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps declared it closed. A senior advisor to Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, Brigadier General, warned that any ship attempting to pass through the strait will be set on fire. Shipping traffic has collapsed. Lloyd's List reported Sunday transits fell 81% by deadweight tonnage, just over 1 million tons versus a January average of 10.3 million. Of the 23 transits recorded that day, only one was a crude oil tanker. Windward maritime analyst told Al Jazeera's traffic was down at least 80%. Japan's Joint Maritime Information Center recorded a 94% decline, with just 3 tankers on March 1st versus a historical average of 138 ships per day. More than 150 tankers are anchored in open waters outside the Persian Gulf, waiting for safety guarantees that have not come. Guys, I know that this one was really dense in numbers and data, but I needed to make sure that you had that information, right? That brings us to the end of episode 2. What we've looked at here is the structure of the global energy system and why the Strait of Hormuz sits at the center of it. But understanding the system is only the first step. The real question is what happens when that system begins to break. In the next episode, we're going to follow the consequences as they move through the global economy, oil prices, shipping costs, currencies, debt and food prices, and why countries that feel these shocks first are often in the Africa and the Caribbean. So join me in episode 3, where we begin to trace the economic ripple effects of this conflict.